you see you're something beautiful. Yeah, you gotta believe, you gotta believe. He wants you to see, he wants you to see that you're not just someone dream soul that can't be seen and can't be known. Yeah, you gotta believe, you gotta believe that you are someone worth dying for. You're someone worth dying for.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Maverick Live, Becoming Aligned, Courageously Fulfilling the Life and Work You were uniquely made for. It's good to be with you today. If you're watching live, drop live in the comments. And if you're catching the replay, drop a replay and let us know where you're listening from. Today, I'm doing a reshoot of my live from Monday. I had some technical difficulties when I was pushing slides. So I know I went through all of the slides, but I realized that I wasn't pushing the slides. I did early on, but I had some issues with my PDF. I'm still learning how to use the tech here. And I'm finding that doing a live stream and doing it in a way that I can capture video in order to edit it and then repost it is a quite a complex process, and it takes a lot of learning. It takes a lot of hands, and the software can be a bit of a challenge, especially when software gets updated, which I learned today that one of my pieces of software was updated and I lost all my settings. So I was scrambling before I hit live today to correct some of those settings, even though I had checked things out earlier this morning. Once I plug everything into the lights and the camera and the different monitors that I'm using here, I found some other things I had to reset up. So I'm looking forward to eventually having a full team to help me produce these. But in the meantime, I'm live, authentic, and doing the best that I can based on the tools and the resources that I have. So I'm going to reshoot the slides that I did on Monday. And this time I uploaded a PDF to my software rather than trying to push slides from PowerPoint from a separate screen to make that a little easier. You know, the live that I did Monday a week ago, I really started to talk about the alignment piece, my framework, the 0.1% effect framework, and that when we get clarity on who we are and start to get aligned with God vertically, aligned with ourselves internally, we can start to get aligned with folks horizontally. I found that I wanted to really push the slides and speak more to why I created the 0.1% effect, a little bit of my journey. And I really wanted to have a teaching on it so I can actually, as I shared before, create a video that I can push out and reuse over and over again. So I'm gonna push those slides again today. And hopefully for those who might be watching and already saw the video or watched me last week, there might be some duplicate content here, but I'm also catching this so I can maybe invite some new people into our community, this movement that I'm trying to create of people becoming the person that they are uniquely created to be. I'm also going to start talking about some of the root of all of our problems, how to become or get a snapshot of who you are, and also how you can become part of the movement that I'm trying to build, because I'm really looking to build a community to help me get this message out and to help me build the tools that I need in order to automate some of the work that I'm doing right now. The reports that I write are highly personalized, and are quite time consuming. And I do believe that I can still make them personalized, but I can build some tools and have some software in place to help automate them. So at the very end of this live, I'll talk a little bit about what it would take to become a part of my founder circle to help build the clarity engine that I'm looking to build to push this forward. But without further ado, I am going to enter the slides, and I'll put myself down to the small screen, and we'll get started. So one of the things that I really want to kick on is a lot of times in our lives, we spend effort playing whack-a-mole. We're chasing or dealing with problems as they pop up. Some people are better at handling that and finding alignment and balancing that than others. But in the end, that we all deal with the same challenges in our health, our wealth, our relationships, and we're playing whack-a-mole trying to solve them. And I know that you've got to know the feeling that when you fix one problem, another one pops up. And the older that we get and the more responsibility that we get with our homes, our families, our children's, our work, our ministry, the community, our friends, we tend to spread ourselves thinner and thinner and thinner. And we often do that by doing what we think is best or getting input or help from other people that may or may not have worked for them. And sometimes the help that we get isn't what's best for us. So when we start to do these fixes, our health improves, but our stress might spike. Or when our intimacy feels strong, our finances collapse. And I know a lot of us, most of us, and if you're anything like me, you've tried the hacks, assessments, coaching programs, or even some self-help books. And most of them help for a moment. They give us a temporary boost, and they can name some of our traits, but none of them resolve the deeper ache, and none of it fully integrates it into a holistic approach to life. And that cycle of surface fixes is what I call playing whack-a-mole, as I shared earlier. And I know you felt it, and I know you know the cost. And that's why today I'm going deeper with my process. I'm not sure what to call it. It's not a framework. It's not a process. It is who we are. And I call it the God print. It is how God uniquely created us to be. And I'm going deeper into that to go beyond the surface and down to the root that I call the 0.1% effect. So what really caused me to go on this process is some of the challenges that I had in my life. And I've decided to make this deliverable in a way that it's not pitch, it's not performance, and it's not a perfect formula. But it is a call. I'm inviting you to return to who God uniquely created to be. Who God uniquely created you to be. And it's something sacred. And we were never meant to forget that, but we have. And what led me to do this is because on the 1st of January, 2017, I went to sleep and I did not wake up for 3 days. And that's not a metaphor. I was put down. I believe God divinely put me down because I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to change my life. And I was going to work and grind and strive and achieve and go, go, go. And the more I did it, the more misaligned I got with my health, my family, my work, and to some extent, my finances. And I had ignored every single signal. And what's interesting is on paper is when you look at my wealth, the family, the house, the cars, I was successful by all the world standards. But I was really out of bad shape. I was very heavy. I was exhausted and I was alone. And even though I was with people, and I'm sure that you felt that, sometimes we can be with people and be completely alone and unfulfilled. And my body collapsed before I was willing, before I recognized the challenges that I had in my life. And it got worse. 1 year later, my wife, after 28 years, decided that she no longer wanted to be married and she left. So my entire life collapsed from the beginning of 2017 to the beginning of 2018. And that's exactly what happens when we live outside of God's design. There was a major ache underneath all of it. And it was a disconnection that was so quiet that it started to feel normal. For over 4 decades, it just felt normal because we've got that ache underneath that we just learned to deal with. And unfortunately, that ache, that disconnection, that misalignment is what destroys everything in our lives. And most of us have this hunger deep down inside. We can't name it. We have a fatigue that we can't outwork, and we have a restlessness or an anxiety that no success could resolve. And I allowed that ache to unravel my life. And it impacted every part of my life. And I started to see that when you forget who you are, it shows up everywhere in our relationships, our health, our love for ourselves and for others, and our spirit goes quiet. We're just going through the motions. And I know this isn't just true for me, because since I've started this work and my journey for the last 8 years, and in particular, working with other people the last 3 years, I have found that this is true for every leader, every couple, every high performer I work with. And it may be true for you. And it's not because you're broken. It's because no one taught you that our design is sacred and that we should lean into it rather than trying to be like everybody else. And there's one way that we can help or determine who we are. Now, I appreciate personality tests and different design systems. They all reveal some truths about us, and most of them have revealed truths about me that I'd never seen before. And many of them also celebrate uniqueness, but they often strip the uniqueness of meaning. They celebrate you being different, and they encourage people to go show that difference, but it never speaks to why you're different and what makes you different and how that fits into the world as a whole. And I want to point out that your uniqueness is not a mutation, it's not evolution, it's not a trend, and it's not randomness. It's a sacred imprint. And I call it the God print, your divine fingerprint, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. But when we forget that, or worse, we never learned that, we start treating our design, our uniqueness, like any other strategy, another performance, or another system that we have to master. There are many people that talk about cosmic forces and collective pressures. And it's true, those do shape us. But what they shape has already been. Distorted forces create distorted forces and distorted outcomes. Conditioning isn't the root of our problems. It's misalignment with who we were created to be. And misalignment always multiplies. You know, I tell stories a lot of times when people are on the right track or the wrong track. And I use naval terms a lot because I spent 21 years in the Navy. But if we're 1 degree off course, over time, that 1 degree can become miles or hundreds of miles or thousands of miles of the course that we should be on. And that's what misalignment does. When we're not aligned vertically with God and aligned internally, we're off course. And the longer that we're off course, the further that we get off the beaten path. And that's exactly what happened to me. And that's what happens to anybody who doesn't know who they are, whose they are, and what course that God has put them on, and using the tools to continue on that course. Now, we see a lot of different words used by different folks, whether they're faith-based or not faith-based. They might call it the universe, the matrix, the society, and I'll even say, even the church, man-made church systems. Every single one of them are distorted because human beings are creating these systems and they're injecting their own distortion into them. And as a result of that, when we start following those and not fully in tune with who we were created to be, they create burnout, they create performing, they created a brute force approach to doing things, and they create conformity because everybody wants to be loved. And we like to conform so that we are loved. And this is the real reason that I created the 0.1% effect, to address all of those issues, still celebrate uniqueness, but also identify where the uniqueness fits in and when to recognize what's distortion and what's real. We share 99.9% of the same DNA, you and I, every human being on this planet. But it's in that 0.1% that makes you different. And ironically, that's where most of our trauma and our conditioning live as well. The very part of you that reveals your divine design, the 0.1%, is also where distorted systems press the hardest. Because conditioned people condition people, and broken patterns create more broken patterns. And that's not coincidence. That's spiritual warfare. And it started in the Garden of Eden. Did God say? Did God really say? And we get that temptation from the very beginning to not recognize what God gave us and celebrate that and live fully in that. And we start going after the fruit. And we allow external forces to start influencing who we are internally rather than allowing God to do that. And I want to reiterate again, you were never random. You didn't choose your design. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, designed to love and to be loved without condition. So let me point out where distortion shows up in our lives. And for each person, for everybody, all of these distortions exist, but based on our traits and our personalities, some may be more reinforced or prevalent than another. When we look at our design, our distortion often manifests itself through collapse. We collapse in the case of pressure, or we collapse when we can't handle something, or we go into control mode. If we try to control our circumstances in order, and most of these are to protect ourselves. These are fears, right? We go into fear mode and we either collapse, we control, we compare, or we withdraw, constrict, or we criticize. And we do all of these things as a result of fear as a result of the distortion of not being who we were created to be, not being aligned with the Holy Creator and aligned internally. But when we know who we are, and I say when we remember who we are, because it's all inside of us, God gave us the imprint, the God print. We are made in His image, and our 0.1% of our DNA, it's always there. And when we tap into that and we know that and remember that or learn it and then realize, wow, we've always known these things, we become clearer, we have more courage, we can have more compassion, we can connect better with others, and we can love better. And this isn't hype. This is in your nervous system. It is in your DNA. It is in your spirit. And your nervous system, your spirit, and your relationships feel this design when it's suppressed or when it's honored. And the big main truth here is that belonging and uniqueness are not opposites. We can be part of a community and be unique. We can serve in a community and be celebrated. But the challenge is in the community is when the conditioning is, because people know who they are to some extent, and that's projected on other people. And then the conditioning starts. But when we can belong and be unique, both can be sacred. And when I began to realign to how God actually made me, that pattern emerged. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and in Romans 12, talks about the body of Christ. Christ is the head. The church is the body. But each individual within that body is unique. For the hand cannot say it does not need the foot. That's unique, but in one body, under one head. And as I started to study this more and more, a pattern emerged. First, identity, then impact, and then intimacy. And when I recognized that pattern, that arc, I realized it didn't just restore my faith, but it changed my career. It changed my life path. It realigned my body. It rebuilt the way I show up as a father and now as a grandfather. And it's because alignment isn't about achievement. It's about harmony. And harmony happens when all 5 core areas of our life begin to reflect our true design: our faith, our family, our fitness, our fellowship, and our field. And when any of these is distorted, you feel it in all the others. And that's why alignment is not a silo. It's a system. It's a complex system, but it's not mechanical as some in the self-help world would have you think. It's sacred. It's God's order. It's his design. It's your God print. And that's why Psalm 139 matters so much to me. It's not just a song, the whole psalm itself. It's a mirror. David writes, "For I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This isn't just one verse in a larger book of the Psalms or a chapter, Psalm 139. It's David's prayer to the God who knows him completely. And before David speaks, and before David moves, God knows what he's going to do. God formed him in the secret place, and he was aware of God's days before even one came to be. The path was ordained, not chosen, but ordained. And this is not just a verse, it's a mirror. And your 0.1% is not a flaw. It's your fingerprint, your God print. It's distinct, but not separate. It's unique, but never random. And it's why you don't need another strategy. You need a return. You don't need more information. You don't need to remember who you were always meant to be, or you do need to remember who you were always meant to be. And this is not a version of yourself that you're going to master with type and strategy, or with self-help books, or with personality tests, or some new learned growth hack. It's the version of you that still knows what sacred feels like. The version of you that was designed to love, to lead and to live in full alignment with your design and as the image of God, as an image of God. So here's your next steps to begin that return. You can start today and join the queue for a free snapshot of your 0.1% effect. And it'll describe who you are. And if you choose that free version, I would love to feature you live here on my live so we can have a conversation about who you are. And God can use me to reveal who you are right here to the world. Or if you'd rather do it privately, I'll guide you through a personal snapshot. And we can do that through email. If what I'm saying resonates with you and you want more than just an executive summary, then you go deeper with the full 0.1% effect discovery report. Beginning probably next week or the week after, I'm going to start having other guests online who have received this report so they can share how this process through this report has changed their lives. And lastly, I'm looking for a founder circle. As I shared in the introduction, a founder circle to help me with this movement, with this message, and to help build the clarity engine so I can put this in the hands of more people faster than ever. Right now, this is a highly manual process in order to develop these reports, and it takes a lot of time and energy. And the more folks that are buying into the process, the more they can help me get these reports and get this process out to the world. And you can start all of that at snapshot.maverickunleashed.com. You can take out your camera, scan that QR code, or you can type in snapshot.maverickunleashed.com right into your browser. So to close, I'd like to share is it's time to stop playing whack-a-mole by treating symptoms of our underlying problems. Again, all of our health, wealth, and relationship problems all come down to these same underlying challenges. We never address the root of the problem. We never fully go all the way down into who we are and get fully aligned vertically with God and internally with who He created us to be. And one area of alignment, as I shared last week, is for me to go all in on this process. So I write on Sundays on my Substack. Speaking of this, I will go live on Thursdays to speak of this, to talk more about the framework, to have guests online or on the live that can share how this work has changed their lives. And then throughout the week, I will be posting content, doing short form video, and writing specifically on how the 0.1% effect can provide clarity in who you are, but also clarity on how that you can live and work courageously. I'm also asking that you subscribe or follow my social media channels so that you'll be notified when I go live on Thursdays and when I post other contents to support this mission. I created the 0.1% effect and the Maverick movement to offer something different, to treat the root of our problems, not just the surface. The aches of burnout, fractured marriages, financial pressure, and spiritual drift are universal. We all have those challenges. And the 0.1% effect, clarity of your divine design, resolves it. And it will work for you, men, women, couples, leaders. And I know if you're anything like me, we're tired of surface level fixes. Your 0.1% isn't your flaw. It's your fingerprint. And that clarity separates this movement from productivity hacks, personality tests, or coaching programs. And that's why this movement matters to me. The 0.1% effect isn't about more information. It's about remembering who you were uniquely created to be. And I'll see you next Thursday live here at 1 p.m.
You might be the wife waiting up at night. You might be the man struggling to provide, feeling like it's hopeless. Maybe you're the son who chose a broken road. Maybe you're the girl thinking